The mission of the World Wildlife Fund is the conservation of nature, broadly speaking. But we've taken a look at the biodiversity as it sits across the planet. We've analyzed it, and we've come up with 19 epicenters of biodiversity. And these are places that you'd probably pick off the top of your head, like the Amazon, the Congo, the Galapagos Islands. But there are other places that aren't as well known, and one of them is the Amur Basin. The Amur is an area 600,000 square miles. It's a large swath of land that starts out in northeastern Mongolia, northeast China, and the Russian Far East. And the thing that ties that area together is the Amur River itself. It's a 3,000-mile-long river that has its headwaters up in northeastern Mongolia.
You're going to show them.
You know, Mongolia is a very big country. It's vast, 1.5 million square kilometers. Though its territory is big, the population is very scarce. Historically, we've been living together with nature. The concept of conservation in Mongolia, it's different.
The headwaters of this great area are called the Onon. And the Onon River is in northeastern Mongolia. And it flows off of the north side of a mountain called Burkhan Khaldun. Burkhan Khaldun is the most sacred mountain in all of Mongolia. It's the place where Genghis Khan would go and he would contemplate his next political moves.
I've had an opportunity to see most of Mongolia now over the years, and this particular place is remarkably special. The people here are fascinating, but it's a relatively unpopulated place with a remarkable landscape. There's no roads, there are no fences, and this particular river system is one of the most protective I've seen anywhere in the world. It has an amazing trout fishery, and it has this incredible species, the taimen.
Yeah, what we're really trying to demonstrate, right, is that taimen in the water is effectively more valuable than ones pulled out and on somebody's treble hook.
But also kind of first step, changing the people's mind.
We have a steering committee within WWF. We've taken a look at the region and set up 2020 goals here. So a set of goals for the year 2020. And in terms of species conservation, we are looking at Amur tigers, Amur leopards, the oriental white stork. And then up here in the headwaters, we've chosen the taimen as our indicator species. And what we mean by indicator species is taimen is the top predator of the river. It's kind of your canary in the coal mine for the rivers and steppe and forests here in the headwaters of the Amur.
I started fly fishing seriously about 1.5 years ago. Well, I've been fishing all my life, and I don't know, it just seemed like it was environmentally more in tune with what my philosophies are. At the time I grew up, we didn't think about, you know, the rivers, the ecology in the river. We basically were out there to get breakfast.
Taimen used to occur all the way from Eastern Europe to Hokkaido and the Sakhalin Island. Now they've been reduced to just a few very, very special places. If they're overfished, the population will quickly collapse like any high-level predator. For an angler, taimen are an amazing sport fish. The opportunity to catch a fish of, 40 or 50 inches on the surface with a dry fly is an incredible opportunity. And to have the opportunity or the privilege to use angling as a conservation tool is a remarkable opportunity.
Taimen is one charismatic fish. It's a voracious predator. It's the top-level predator. And they typically eat fish. They've been known to take waterfowl swimming across, muskrat or mice. They are essentially the wolf of the river.
One of the most amazing things about them, for such a large freshwater species, is that they're a surface-feeding animal. And for fly anglers, for many, that's the biggest thrill.
I never catch a taimen, but I saw the taimen in died and alive too. And that's a really big fish.
The taimen is a fish that I dream about. I think of that fish as, just this mighty pair of jaws.
Nice. You got him pretty well.
And to see one of those things slosh at your mouse imitation and then come after it again and then look for it and come after it again. Definitely a fish that lives in my dreams, more so than others because the take is just so dramatic.
Usually the angler starts out wanting to catch the most fish, and then the angler wants to catch the biggest fish, and then typically they evolve to a stage where they want to catch perhaps the most difficult fish. I think the end stage is catching the everlasting fish, which is the conservation of the rivers and providing for future generations of people who want to enjoy the sport.
Taimen in all of their range are very sensitive species. Development and taimen don't mix very well. But development isn't the #1 threat for taimen in Mongolia. The water quality's good, the lifestyles are sustainable. The #1 threat for taimen in Mongolia is overfishing. In the early 1990s, the government of Mongolia changed, and with the change in government, enforcement of wildlife laws changed along with the economic changes. And wildlife use in a lot of Mongolia, frankly, became a free-for-all. Many of the rivers in Mongolia, the taimen populations have been depleted drastically. What we decided here on the Onan was that we were going to work in a partnership to draw a line in the sand and say, in this particular place, we're going to do things differently before it collapses. We've got a healthy fishery, let's keep it that way. So what we're working to do is to allow angling to continue, but to do it in a sustainable manner. So what the partnership has done is we've gone forward and we've designated this entire river as catch and release, and for all anglers, fly fishing only for international anglers, and single barbless hook only for local anglers. And now we're working to educate the angling population to practice a different ethic towards the resource.
I have mine on.
We need science in order to establish a baseline. We need to know what kind of effect our conservation program is having on taimen population. So we've started a very easy to implement, simple population monitoring program here on the Onan River.
Stream side, we always get the weight, length, girth, and the GPS or the general GPS.
With these numbers, we'll be able to monitor progress over the coming decade. And working with the guides at Mongolia River Outfitters, we're tagging each of the taimen that we catch so that we can recatch them and understand their movements within the water. It's important that we not assume that our conservation program is having a good effect, but that we actually monitor it against hard data. And so that's what we're doing here on the Onan River.
In Mongolia, there are only 2.5 million people. The territory is big. That's why the kind of concept to have lots of rangers around a big, huge area is not going to work. See, instead, if we would work with the local people to make them environmentalists, to make them rangers, that only would work in Mongolia. So with this situation, really, what we are doing is everything to work with the local people, see, to change their minds, to make them to environmentally think, see, those kind of things. That's why whatever we do really for conservation in here is working with the local people.
Nearly all of the staff from Mongolia River Outfitters come from the local community. Handa is the camp manager. She comes from the town of Bayanadraga. Batsur is the head driver. He comes from this community of Binder.
I'm very appreciative and very glad to work with you guys because it's very, very good thing for the people, for the protection and the Mongolian country, and yeah, and I like it. That's why, and I would like to thank you very much for the WWFs and other people who are working with us.
Одоо бол тэр гаднаас ирсэн тэр жип унаад ингээ ороод ирж байна. Тэр хүн ингээ баахан загас ураад ингээ аваа явж байна. Тэр хүнийг газарчлаад байгаа усуд энэ дотор байгаа даа байхгүй юу?
Yes, of course, he's seen some people who are coming to Ulaanbaatar, coming from Ulaanbaatar and to catch a fish, and of course the day when they catch a fish, they just killed and then brought that to Ulaanbaatar, and it's also a main problem in the countryside. If Taimen are not in Mongolia River, they're not the visitors, not foreigners, not come here. If no foreigners and the visitors come here, they of course they don't have money like that.
You know, for a long time in the conservation community, large international conservation organizations focused on creating protected areas. In other words, taking a look at a particular geography, finding out the areas that were most important biologically, and setting up kind of no-go zones for people. And that can work, but only to a certain extent. Ultimately, a successful conservation program in any region will involve the local people. And that's probably the most critical component of the conservation program, is getting people here within the SOMs to take charge of natural resource management. As a conservation organization, we can't afford to just go about our work, invest people's money, without really measuring how we're doing. Taimen serves as our canary in the coal mine. It allows us to say, are our conservation interventions having the right effect? If we see the Taimen population rise over the next 5-10 years, we're doing a good job. Taimen is our indicator of success in the Onon Basin.